Hello, I'm Megan James, editor at Call Centre Helper, and I'm delighted to be joined today by John Forster from Specsavers to hear more about what it really took behind the scenes to make the move to their new offices an all-round success. So, John, let's start with the scale of the operation. How many people were relocated and where did they go?
So we're a contact center of 124 FTE. We were in a 130 seater kind of contact center previously, and we decided that we didn't feel that our contact center was fit for purpose anymore. So we relocated into one of our other buildings across the road,
Mhm.
reducing us down to a 50 seater contact center. So during that period, we reduced our hybrid working from 3 to 2 days a week to gain that capacity. So yeah, it was a big move because the building that we moved to at the time wasn't set up from a broadband perspective
Mm.
because we just acquired the building. So it come with some challenges initially, but we'll kind of talk through that and what that looked like later.
Mm. Okay, so what would you say went well during the move? If anyone else is about to start this process tomorrow, what would you suggest they do?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you should ensure that you do is that you've got the right people with the right skill sets on the pitch from day one.
Mm.
Making sure that you kind of cover all bases, like people that are advanced with technology, people who have got a very people centric mindset, because we are, it's going to be difficult for some individuals, so we want to make sure that we cater for those individuals. And also, there's also going to be a potential impact to customers, because if anything goes wrong,
Yeah.
with technology or anything like that, there is going to be an there's going to be a knock-on effect. So I think we just make sure that we've got those mindsets all kind of covered.
Mm. So not
I think,
assuming everyone's going to take it the same way, that different agents on the front
yeah,
line will experience that move differently and not just have a blanket approach there.
absolutely. I think we've got to be mindful that, when we go into this process, that I'm most probably 3 months ahead of schedule with everybody where everybody else is at that current time.
Mm.
And, as much as I think it's a really exciting move, and it is a really exciting move,
Mm.
everybody deals with change differently. So we need to ensure that we are making sure that we're adapting to everybody's needs ultimately to ensure it goes smoothly. Otherwise, it won't.
And what would you say is a good example of someone who was maybe a bit more resistant up front and some of the smaller steps you put in place then to help them with that transition?
Yeah, I think there's a few really. I think a couple of things that we put front and center really was anybody with neurodiversity needs, because change is really important and how you manage that for those individuals. And also people that have DSE assessments as well, to ensure that they're comfortable moving into their new environment. So what we did was make sure that we brought them along in the journey far earlier than everybody else. We made sure that when we moved into our new location, they got to go into it before anybody, to ensure that they were picking the right areas for them, that was going to be right from a colours perspective, from a lighting perspective, and then obviously the other things that they may need in order for them to be able to do their job accordingly. So definitely bringing them on that journey far earlier than everybody else.
Mm. And what happened is the moving week itself, what helped that go smoothly?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that we did, from moving on the week. Was, I think we made sure that we did robust testing the week prior.
Mhm.
So it wasn't just a case of we went in on day one of the new environment and we just went for it. We did move with a group of individuals to kind of look at capacity testing.
Mhm.
So we made sure that we had, let's just say for argument's sake, 25% of our contact center went into the contact center and tested all the systems,
Mhm.
bandwidth capability, was working really closely with our technology team, to ensure that everything was being monitored in the background. So it wasn't just a case of getting a sign off from our specialist to ensure that everything's working all right. We can validate that with what we're seeing behind the scenes in our technology setup.
Amazing. And then did you have celebrations and things like that across the week as you officially moved in?
Yeah, we had we kind of had an I think it was a new home. We had new home cards for everybody. I believe we had I think we had a cake as well, which was
Mm.
pretty cool. So it's like a bit of a birthday kind of new home celebration. So
Mhm.
and everybody loved it, and everybody loves a cupcake, right?
Yeah.
So. But it's very important then we was getting the cupcakes that we catered again for everybody because we got gluten tolerance
Mhm.
and people like that. So all of the tiny little details we try to make sure that we ensure that nobody's left out, feels
Mm.
isolated, and has just been part of the journey ultimately.
Yeah, so one of the big standout things for me right now is that just how much effort you put into bringing everyone on that journey and catering to those individual needs. So it's really nice to see. So
Yeah.
obviously you did a lot of things that made that smoother for everyone involved. But would you say there's anything that just made you think, oh, I wish someone had warned me about that before we started this process?
Yeah, I think Megan. I think one thing I will say is I was super surprised. There was two aspects to this move. Was one moving into our temporary location.
Hmm.
That gave a few challenges. I think more so when we
Hmm.
moved back into our new location. Surprisingly, it was seamless.
Hmm.
We ensured that everything was ready for day one. Should anything go wrong, and it didn't, and for that I can't thank my team enough, and and the wider Specsavers team. But I think the learnings that we made initially, I suppose, from moving into our temporary location was don't assume builders are going to take into consideration the fact that you're working with customers. So setting out clear guidelines of when they can be banging and
Yeah.
using vibration tools
Hmm.
ultimately, because that has an impact on the colleagues and the customer, potentially the customers as well. So that not assuming that. So I had to have some difficult conversation with some site managers at times. Um, and I think as well, just ensuring, I didn't, although we was going in the temporary location for 6 months, and we know everybody knew it was a transitional period to take maybe a step back to go forward 10. Um,
Hmm.
you know, we just didn't have the right level of facilities for our people to feel as comfortable as we would have liked ultimately. And it wasn't to say our facilities were poor, because they weren't. We had everything that we needed, but it was certainly a step back. We didn't anticipate the impacts that would have on people, and also being so close to everybody from going to from a contact center hybrid working where there was a lot of space to then being quite pretty much on top of each other constantly.
Hmm.
Um, but the benefit for that is actually people built relationships with people they didn't have relationships before, because
Okay.
they were kind of sat with people they wouldn't have normally sat with, because it was in a smaller location. So although it definitely had its drawbacks, and we'd
Hmm.
definitely go, we should think about that moving forward, if we was out to ever do it again, or any other parts of the business, so to speak. But
Hmm.
on the flip side, it definitely had some positives around it, around the relationship building. And I think our contact center is closer now than it's ever been. So which is only a benefit.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And I love the fact that it's brought people closer together, even though obviously it was a period of discomfort for that 6 months, because that's quite a significant amount of time, isn't it,
Mm.
really? Not talking about a week or two of displacing people. 6 months of a temporary location is quite a long time for people to deal with. But it's nice
It,
to hear that it all turned out well in the end.